Welcome back to another Mobalytics video. Today we're taking a look at our tier list for low elo for patch 12.8. There's even more changes this patch and lots of champions are receiving buffs, so let's see how this affects the tier list. Before we get started, don't forget to click that link in the description to head to our website to check out the full tier list for yourself. We also have tons of guides, videos, builds, runes and all sorts of other content for you to use when playing League of Legends. If you're coming to the tier list because you want to find out what's OP and you want to climb ranks with it, download our desktop app and find out the best picks for you in every single champion select. Also, if you want a closer look at all of the changes in patch 12.8, we did have a video on our channel last week that covers all of the buffs, nerfs and everything else that's new to the game. So check it out if you haven't already. Let's start off with the top lane, and in the god tier we have Kayle, Garen, Yorick, Mordekaiser and Shen. Mordekaiser jumps up to the god tier this week with his buffs as he has been performing exceptionally well in low elo, and these buffs just make him a little bit better. Wukong moves up to the S tier after his changes in the last patch really did make a difference. Swain jumps up to the A tier and honestly it's very hard to see just how strong the new Swain will be. So for now we're placing him here and we're going to update this accordingly next week in our mid-patch tier list update video. Gragas falls off the tier list with a very poor success rate recently, and Sion and Teemo both respectively dropped down one tier too. So Mordekaiser has had a very solid win rate for the whole of season 12 so far. This is for obvious and various reasons. He's got a huge amount of winning matchups, he's very hard to lane against, and if he does get a lead he often keeps it and snowballs it very easily. Mordekaiser's ultimate means that if he gets ganked, he just ults, he kills one and then often ends up killing the other or just gets away safely. Mordekaiser has fantastic survivability, damage, dueling potential and so many tools that allow him to outplay his enemies already, and with the movement speed boost that he's going to get this patch, it's only going to make him even stronger. The higher rank you get, the more people tend to be able to deal with this champion, although of course he still has the ability to pop off in any game, but he really does excel in those lower ranks from the depths of yellow hell all the way up to gold and plat where he really does dominate. Poppy has been one of the most underrated top laner for quite some time now, and she is a fantastic weak-sided top laner who can deal so well with incoming pressure. Poppy has really good early kill threat with her stuns and damage, and her anti-mobility and general disruption make her very difficult to play against. This patch, Poppy has been buffed pretty significantly, especially those big changes to her ultimate, and I think we're going to see a hell of a lot more of this champion in the next few weeks. Poppy is actually surprisingly fun to play too. You charge towards your enemies, you lock them down, and you keep on top of them until they inevitably die. To add to all of the brilliant things that we've already spoken about Poppy, she also has fantastic amounts of peel. Her whole kit can completely deny those pesky frontliners and assassins trying to dive your carries. So even if you're a bit behind, you still offer so many ways to impact. If you haven't tried Poppy already, it's definitely time to give her a go this patch. When is Kayle gonna stop winning so many games? No changes, no nerfs, nothing has really happened to Kayle this season, but she is just a serial winner, especially in low elo. Kayle's win rate is one of the highest in the game in both of the solo lanes at the moment, and has been for most of the season, but it is the top lane where she is most popular. Kayle's ability to 1v9 is probably up there with some of the best in the entire game. Her scaling is just absurd, her damage is ruthless, and her ability to cut through teams and completely destroy them makes her such a brilliant late game carry. I can guarantee there's no one watching this video that hasn't experienced what a good late game Kayle can do, and probably still has some nightmares about it. If a scaling late game monster of a champion is your cup of tea, keep playing it. Let's move over to the jungle now, and in the god tier we have Volibear, Nocturne, Rammus, Wukong and Warwick. Rek'Sai and Elise jump up to the A tier after really popping off in recent weeks, and Poppy shoots up to the S tier following her buffs this week. Viego, Jarvan and Jax all fall down to the B tier, as despite their ridiculous popularity they generally aren't really just doing anywhere near as well as you'd think. So Wukong has been so much better since his recent buffs and changes, and he's definitely having a blast on the Rift. Wukong is strong in the top lane too, but it's the jungle where he's seeing his best results. This guy just has it all at the moment. He's got damage, burst, mobility, jukes, baits, and of course that amazing AoE ultimate that can easily change fights and games in the right moments. Wukong definitely feels like a bit of a jack of all trades champion at the moment, but he does excel at a lot of things. Now he's not as disgustingly broken as other champs have been in the past when they're strong, like for example Viego, but he certainly is winning a lot of games. Wukong is also very easy to pick up despite his skill ceiling being fairly high, and this means in low elo where mechanics may not be your main strength, he's still a great pick to climb with. For some reason, people just don't talk about Rek'Sai enough. She's been fantastic all season, and at the moment she's at her best. Lethality early game stomping junglers are always going to be a great option in solo queue, as if you get ahead early game you can just walk around the map one-shotting everyone until your enemy's FF15. Rek'Sai definitely is playing against the clock though, as the later the game goes on the less impact you're likely to have. But the truth is this champion just has so much potential throughout the early game you shouldn't actually have to worry about that if you are playing her correctly. Get those creative ganking paths going, get stuck in the early game and you will instantly feel the rewards if playing this champion well in this patch. Sejuani got some buffs too, and she's already a very strong and popular pick in the jungle at low elo. Tanks are very impactful right now, especially at lower ranks, and Sejuani is just such a reliable one to go for. She's very tanky with very few items, and if you do get a bit of an item and XP advantage, you do feel a bit unkillable. She thrives in those early multiple target skirmishes, and her CC makes her so brilliant when paired with the champions who can bring the damage to the table. Sejuani's got a fairly healthy jungle, clears some strong ganks, especially when she's level 6, and then the longer the game goes on, she just absorbs more and more damage. If you are thinking about adding a tank to your jungle pool, Sejuani is a great pick to go for. Over to the mid lane now, and in the god tier we have Veigar, Diana, Pantheon, Anivia and Pyke. Sylas and Kassadin both move up to the A tier following their buffs. Zoe moves up to the B tier after her results in low elo have steadily been improving over the last few weeks. And of course she also got a buff this patch. If you can play this champion you can definitely climb with her, but due to the low amount of players in low elo that can pull it off, B tier is where she belongs. Syndra and Orianna fall into that C tier as despite their popularity they just aren't having a very good season. So I honestly think Sylas could be busted this patch. The ultimate cooldown buff is absolutely huge, so be prepared to remember how crazy a good Sylas player can be. Sylas does feel like a bit of an unreliable champion in my experience though. He either pops off on 1v5s or he doesn't really actually do anything, and this can largely depend on the matchup and how his early game goes. Learning Sylas's matchups is a big part of playing this champion and knowing who you can kill at level 3 and 4 and who you can't. If you do know your limits though, you can get a lead very early on and then just run the whole game in your favour, especially with that reduced ultimate cooldown now. When you're picking Sylas, don't just look at champion select and go, ooh, so many sexy ultimates for me to steal. Think matchups. Can I kill them early game, or am I just going to be outranged, pushed in, or just out-dueled? If you win that matchup and you can abuse it, you can carry with ease on this champion. Sylas is unpredictable in his skirmishing and team fighting due to that ultimate, and his roams are so strong if you can pull them off. With these buffs to an already strong champion in the right pair of hands, he could be a real dark horse this week. Pantheon's been rocking it up since those changes last week, and despite people thinking they were more like nerfs, he's doing very well in the majority of ranks, especially low elo. Mid lane Pantheon is a classic early game stomping beast, and you can just roll over the game with your insane damage if you get an early item or two. A little bit of lethality and you can just get back to lane and all in every time you see your enemy. The ultimate is also a really big reason why he's so strong too. You can use it to get back to lane, jump on your matchup, or roam and carry through the rest of the map instead. He's a pretty simple champion to play too, so if you are looking for a new solo carry mid laner, he's an immense choice. Just remember to close out that game before you do inevitably get outscaled though. If you are looking for a champion who's been consistent all season without changes and one that's never banned, go for Annie. She's just been performing so well all season in low elo, and she just kinda has it all really. She's easy to play and easy to learn, she's easy to farm and easy to fight with, she has fantastic all-in potential in lane, she snowballs hard, she roams like a monster, and can teamfight like an absolute beast. Annie's flash ultimate is an amazing way to carry games. I mean literally all you gotta do is learn that one combo and just use it at the right times to turn any unwinnable game. The one thing you gotta make sure of is that you don't pick Annie into a horrendous matchup. As long as you don't get outranged too hard, you should be just fine though. Give her a go and let us know how you get on. Moving down to the AD carries now, and in the god tier we have Jhin, Vayne, Yasuo, Veigar and Samira. Jinx moves out of the god tier and into the S tier as she's been nerfed yet again this patch, and she was already feeling the after effects of other recent nerfs. Zyra moves back down into the A tier because of nerfs to her Q this patch, and AP Kai'Sa is being gutted. Kai'Sa is still playable, but she's no longer going to be a W spam sniping monster, and she will be returning back to a traditional AD carry build or even an AP and attack speed hybrid. Tristana got a minor buff this patch, and she's slowly been creeping into the scene recently, especially at lower ranks. Tristana's all-in potential throughout the early game is hilarious. You just press E, you jump in, you pop your E, you jump again, and then you jump away when they're dead. You have so much kill threat for a scaling champion, and if you partner up with an aggressive early game support like Naut or Pyke, you can really dominate the early game. Tristana also melts down structures due to her bomb, and farms those plates so easily, giving you some juicy extra gold to add to your carry potential. And if you do manage to get to the late game, you've got an underrated hyper carry with a ton of range and mobility too, so why not? Jhin has been busted all season, and for some reason he's been buffed. Jhin's had an incredible season, and he's been optimal patch after patch after patch, and although he did get slightly affected by those Galeford nerfs, he's already back with a bang following on from these buffs. Jhin's probably the most flexible AD carry in the game at the moment, and no, I don't mean gymnastics. I mean you can pick him into so many matchups and with so many different supports, and well, it just kinda works. He's got that zazz that just makes him brilliant in so many games, and honestly this doesn't feel like it's actually going to change anytime soon. I'm sure you've all been playing Jhin already, but if not, seriously, why not? Ezreal has always been a very safe pick throughout his whole history of League of Legends. He's got that long range poke with his Q and can easily farm with it too, and he has the most reliable form of mobility in the game for an AD carry in his E, which is basically just a flash on a basic ability cooldown, which he can bring down by landing Qs. Speaking of this, Ezreal just got his ultimate cooldown buff, meaning it's now usable far more often, and it also gets lowered when he lands those Qs. Ezreal has not had the most exciting season really. There are plenty of other AD carries that have just been so much stronger than him, but he's never been weak. When the right player is playing him, Ezreal will always have his place in the game, and now he'll be that little bit stronger due to these buffs. If you do need a safe choice when your first pick, you can't really go wrong with Ezreal. Finally, let's take a look at the support tier list, and in the God tier we have Renata Glasc, Sona, Soraka, Nami and Zyra. Soraka remains in the God tier despite receiving nerfs this week, as those scaling sustaining monsters are just way too strong. Vel'Koz jumps up to join the also buffed Xerath in the A tier as that pokey pair of supports this patch. Seraphine falls down into the B tier as she just simply doesn't compare to the other champions like her in Sona and Soraka, and in fact has quite the opposite success rate at the moment. Nami has been one of the most consistent supports in the game all season, and recently even more so with the arrival of those other slightly more aggressive AD carries who can completely abuse Nami's strengths. Lucian and Samira are in so many more games at the moment, and the pairing of these champions with Nami is just sublime. Low cooldown gap closers with insane burst damage means they can just win so many lanes. Nami works exceptionally well with basically anyone though. Almost all AD carries or mages work with this champion, with the extra burst damage that Nami provides, as well as the huge array of peel which just makes her so good with so many different lane partners. Nami is the definition of a jack of all trades support. She has peel, CC, healing and burst damage, which is everything you need to influence the majority of games. If you're looking for Miss Consistent from the support role, Nami is definitely the pick to go for. If you'd rather poke and burn your enemies down to a grim fate though, Zyra is having a blast this season too. Zyra is all about poke and catch potential, and she can be absolutely disgusting to lane against if she knows what she's doing. Zyra's plants can be super oppressive, and she always has that ability to destroy you should you get too close. Now Zyra does take a bit of practice, mainly due to how fragile she is when you think about her mid-range spells, meaning you gotta be super careful when playing against champions who can catch you out and punish you. But if you position well enough, you can dominate so many matchups. Zyra can also uniquely counter hook champions with those plants too, which feels insanely satisfying if you can pull it off. In teamfights, Zyra just offers so much damage and CC, and if you do forget about her, she'll melt you down so easily. Renata Glasc has been fantastic over the last few weeks, and since her shaky start to the Rift, she's just been amazing since people figured out how to actually play her properly. She offers a ridiculous amount of utility in her kit, and she just has so many ways to outplay her enemies and defy the odds, especially the later the game goes on when her cooldowns get usable a bit more often. Renata's main issue is her long cooldowns, but if you play the champion well, you honestly just don't even feel like this is even a problem. Get ability haste as quickly as possible and have fun turning every single fight into your favour. Renata has got some crazy synergies with certain champions too, and if you're doing bot lane with a Draven or a Samira main, you can win the game inside the first 10 minutes. Renata Glasc definitely takes some skill, but her win rate reflects an exceptional performance currently, so don't miss out. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of our patch 12.8 low elo tier list video. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.